This is The Issue, and I am the Ghetto Man. Today's issue, casting your pearls before swine, judicial corruption and prejudice. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Have you ever wondered why a judge is called Your Honor? Or why we're required to stand when a judge enters a courtroom? Who is this person wearing the black robe, and why must we pay tribute with our respect, honor, and praise? What noble authority has given this person the power to demand our worship? Well, before we can answer these questions, we must first explore what a judge is. Now, turning to Bovier's Law Dictionary, a judge is defined as, quote, a public officer lawfully appointed to decide litigated questions according to law. Now, the key phrase in the definition is according to law. A judge is bound by the law and cannot make a decision beyond the mandates of the law. You see, a judge holds his or her office during good behavior or until they attain a certain age. And what's most important is that impartiality is a judge's first and foremost duty. If a judge has in the slightest way any interest in the cause, like when you're a pro se litigant, like protecting his brothers of the bar, lawyers, from a citizen like me appearing before the court in pro se, or when I'm challenging the court in propria persona, that judge is disqualified from sitting as judge. You see, judges are public servants, just like everybody else that works for the government. They're to serve us, we the people. They are not our masters. We are the masters. When acting within the bounds of their jurisdiction, a judge, believe it or not, is not responsible for any error of judgment or mistake of law, unless a mistake was induced by gross carelessness or ignorance partaking of criminal quality. In other words, their actions must be willful and corrupt, which today is really not that hard to prove. Now, the judicial branch of government is the watchdog over our constitutional republic. Now, short of a civil war, the judicial branch of government is the final step in the checks and balances in the preservation of our constitutional republic. It is within our nation's court system that an unlawful and or unconstitutional law or act is corrected. To sit as judge in any court of our land is the highest and most honorable position of public trust that can be bestowed upon any person in public service. When this trust is betrayed, the very foundation of our constitutional republic is destroyed. The position of a judge is an extremely honorable one. When we enter into a courtroom and address the judge as Your Honor, it is not the man wearing the black robe sitting behind the bench, elevated above the congregation like a king, that's being honored. There is no honor in the man wearing the black robe. It is the position that he has been entrusted with that is honorable. It is the judge, not we the people, that should be honored by the position. If a judge is a person of honesty and integrity, then it will be his honor to sit as judge. It should be his honor that the people in his community would entrust him with the important position of judge. It should be his honor to sit in judgment and to apply the laws equally to all citizens that may stand before him and the people's court. All too often, the people who have been placed in the position of judge forget who they work for and that they are to serve we the people. They're not there to rule over us as some king or a priest. Unfortunately, when a person becomes a judge, more times than not, they elevate themselves above the people that they're supposed to serve. They forget that they are bound by the law and become a law unto themselves. Now, when this happens, a judge becomes a tyrant. Now, for over 35 years, I've been teaching people nationwide biblical law, American history, constitutional law, courtroom procedure, and the importance of getting involved at the local level in the inner workings of civil government. A citizen armed with an education of our nation's true form of government and how it's supposed to work has the power to keep his local government under control as well as constitutionally correct. If you don't know how civil government is supposed to function, then you will be easily deceived and your rights will be violated by the very people that you have voted into office to serve you. They're there to serve you. Most of us know that our government is corrupt, but what we don't know is how corrupt it has actually become. It isn't until a person gets involved in the workings of his or her local court system that the extent of the evil in our government is exposed. Today, the most corrupt and evil branch of government is the judiciary. All of our courts are under siege. And who seized our courts? Lawyers. The very people that our nation's founders banned from the courts over 250 years ago. Quote, when the colonies were first settled, the lawyer was synonymous with the cringing attorney generals and the solicitor generals of the crown and the arbitrary justices of the king's court, all bent on the conviction of those who opposed the king's prerequisites and twisting the law to secure convictions. This prejudice gained strength in the colonies where distrust of lawyers became an institution. Several colonies prohibited pleading for hire in the 17th century. That prejudice persisted into the 18th century as the, quote, lower classes became to identify lawyers with the upper classes, unquote. The years of the Revolution and Confederation saw an upsurge of anti-lawyer sentiment, a sudden revival after the War of the Revolution of the old dislike and distrust of lawyers as a class. In the heat of these sentiments, the Constitution was forged, unquote. And that comes from a Supreme Court case called Ferretta versus California, 422 U.S. 806. Today, every courtroom in the United States is filled with the same scum that our founding fathers once banned. And it is from the ranks of this scum that we get our judges. It is also from the ranks of this scum that we attempt to get justice. Today, when a citizen decides to utilize the court system and appear pro se, meaning acting as his own lawyer, or in pro persona, when you're challenging the jurisdiction of the court, he is treated by the judge and the legal profession worse than a black man seeking an audience before the Democratic Party's Ku Klux Klan. In the eyes of the majority of judges in America, a pro se litigant is less than a slave. Why? The judicial branch of government is run by lawyers, and lawyers do not want you using the court without hiring one of their brothers of the bar. They will mock and criticize you for exercising your right to represent yourself in a lawsuit and do everything they can to hurt your case, even if they have to violate the law to do it. Now, I've been involved in pro se litigation all of my adult life. I know hundreds of pro se litigants nationwide. During the years, we have had the pleasure of sharing our experiences with judges. All too often, judges use their honorable position to punish a pro se litigant. Why? Because the pro se litigant didn't hire one of the bar, or should I say, cult members, before entering the king's court. Now, I honestly believe that most judges enjoy violating the rights of people that represent themselves in a lawsuit. They seem to get some sort of perverted satisfaction in deliberately causing emotional pain on these people. Recently, I was sitting at the counsel table for the defendant in a courtroom here in Montana. The courtroom was empty. I was ready to present my argument on the motion that I had presented to the court. It was a motion to dismiss in this case. All of my research was complete. My argument was legally correct, and my position was set in concrete. Now, based upon the laws of the state of Montana, the only thing that the judge can do was grant my motion to dismiss. As I sat there looking at the judge's bench, I began to reflect back over the years on all of my past courtroom experiences and how difficult the judicial branch of government makes it on a citizen who decides to handle his or her legal affairs without an attorney. I thought about how I'd been treated by the different judges that I appeared before over the years. And I can honestly say most of the judges that I have met tried everything in their power to hurt me and my case. I can only think of 2 judges that remained impartial. The rest of them, sadly to say, used their position of so-called honor to punish any citizen who dared to enter their noble arena without first hiring one of their brothers of the bar to represent them. This behavior is known as judicial prejudice in the pro se litigant community. As I sat there that day waiting for the hearing to start, the words of our Lord Jesus Christ, Yeshua, in Matthew 7:6 kept running through my head. Quote, "Give not that which is holy unto dogs, neither cast ye pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet and turn again to rend you." Unquote. Well, the judge entered the courtroom and the hearing began. Complete with the applicable statutes and cases in support of my motion, I presented a well-researched argument to the court. I left no stone unturned. My position was cast in concrete. Next to me was opposing counsel for the state, a lawyer, who had filed nothing with the court in support of his argument other than his own personal opinion. That's it. His own personal opinion. So we got up and argued our positions before the court. Now, opposing counsel had nothing to support his argument, not one thing. There was no doubt victory was mine. The law left the judge with no other alternative than to rule in my favor. I waited for the judge's ruling. As I waited, I began to wonder, does this judge honor his position in the community? Does he take his job seriously? Will he apply the law in a just manner, or will he choose to protect his brothers of the bar from the embarrassment of losing against a pro se litigant and rule against me? Well, the judge made his decision, and you guessed it, he ruled against me. Why? Well, you're not going to believe this. The judge told me that although I was legally correct, I was technically wrong. Technically wrong? What the hell does that mean? I thought it was the judge's job to rule on the law, and if the law applied to me, then the relief must be granted. Well, apparently, in Montana, you have to be technically correct in order to be entitled to relief. Legally correct, it just doesn't matter anymore. In all the years that I've been exercising my inalienable right to seek relief in our court systems, this was by far the most blatant display of judicial prejudice that I have ever encountered. Total contempt and absolute disregard for the law. I gave the judge my pearls, and he trampled them under his feet and turned against me. Why? Because I dared to enter the king's court system, a court system run exclusively by self-proclaimed noblemen of the legal profession, princes, as it were. without first paying an extortion fee to one of the king's elite members, the brothers of the bar, for the privilege of an audience before His Majesty, the judge. Today in America, judges commit more civil rights violations on pro se litigants in 1 week than the Democratic Ku Klux Klan's committed on the blacks in the South since its inception. Judges enjoy hurting citizens that don't use lawyers, period. And they will do everything in their power to strip a pro se litigant of his dignity and his sovereignty. The judiciary has, over the past 160 years, destroyed every legal principle that a republic was founded upon simply by ruling them away. Judges, along with their lawyer counterparts, are responsible for the destruction of our constitutional republic. Why? Because we, the people, have allowed lawyers to become judges. There is no reason, logic, and common sense in these people. None whatsoever. They have destroyed the meaning of justice and fairness and replaced it with evil and corruption. You see, once a lawyer becomes a judge, he never forgets his brothers of the bar, and he will always come to their rescue when the opposition is a citizen, a pro se litigant. Today, judges and their fork-tongued brothers of the bar will publicly announce that a citizen has a right to represent himself in court. Don't be fooled by these wolves in sheep's clothing with their noble words of justice. Their words are nothing more than window dressing, covering their evil and corrupt ways. The day that you decide to exercise your right to self-representation will be the day that you discover why the judge's robe is black. Don't be surprised if when you return home from your day at court, don't be surprised if you find a cross burning in your front yard. The legal profession is made up entirely of lawyers. Where do judges come from? The ranks of lawyers. These self-proclaimed noblemen completely control the judicial system in the United States, both state and federal. In Montana, the legal profession has precluded everyone except members of their religion, in other words, the Montana State Bar Association, from becoming district court judges. All bar associations are nothing more than closed-shop monopolies that have a stranglehold on our court system. It's interesting to note that you don't have to be a lawyer to become a member of the legislative branch of government where you create law. Nor do you have to be a lawyer to become a member of the executive branch of government where you enforce law. But when it comes to the judicial branch of government, you must be a brother of the bar and be loyal to its religion before you can rule on the law. That's total corruption. When a person decides to handle his or her own legal affairs, the legal profession feels threatened and tries everything in its power to discourage that person from entering the courtroom without first hiring one of their brothers of the bar. Lawyers conspire with judges to lie and twist the law to fit their argument. They resort to humiliation by making up cute little anti-Christian sayings like, quote, anybody who represents themselves has a fool for a client, unquote. Which a Christian should always reply by saying, quote, but whosoever shall say, thou fool, shall be in danger of hellfire, Matthew 5:22. Is it any wonder why Jesus Christ, Yeshua, said, quote, woe to you lawyers, for you take away the key of knowledge. You do not enter yourself, and those who would enter you prevent. Luke 11:52. You see, Jesus, Yeshua, he understood that from the ranks of the lawyers comes everything that is evil and wicked. Today, the judicial community has granted themselves titles of nobility in violation of Article 1, Section 9, Clause 8 of the United States Constitution, where it states that no title of nobility shall be granted in the United States. They have become many tyrants by declaring themselves immune from the very law that they have taken an oath to uphold, defend, and serve. Just try to sue a judge that's violated your rights and see what happens. The case will be dismissed. Why? Because judges have absolute immunity from the consequences of their actions while sitting on the bench. Who in the hell made this rule? Judges? You betcha. And how did they make this rule? They do it through what they call case law. And who makes case law? Judges. Who applies case law? Judges. Pretty neat trick, isn't it? Those who make the rules get to apply the rules. Now, it's interesting to note case law, whatever that is, it's unconstitutional. Courts can only rule on the law and cannot legislate law from the bench. Only the legislative branch of government can create law. Let that sink in for a minute. Where did the judicial branch of government get this power? Did they get it from the United States Constitution? No. Can't find anything there that authorizes the courts to be able to create law from the bench. Did they get it from we the people? No. Then where did they get it? They gave it to themselves. This is called usurpation. When a person has absolute immunity from the consequences of his actions, he no longer has the duty to apply the law equally. He can do as he wishes. After all, who's going to punish him? You? Me? Congress? The court system? Absolute immunity is tyranny. When a citizen chooses not to hire a member of the legal profession, he becomes a threat in two ways. First, the pro se litigant takes money out of the mouths of these leeches, lawyers, by not paying their extortion fees. Second, the pro se litigant may study law. He may study courtroom procedure. He may study how the system works. Maybe the pro se litigant might figure out that anybody can learn the rules of court, the rules of evidence, how to do legal research, how to write motions and briefs, and how to conduct a trial, how to make and meet objections while doing that trial, and how to appeal his case when the judge violates his rights and ignores the law. Maybe the pro se litigant might figure out that the legal profession is nothing but a hoax. But most important of all, maybe the pro se litigant will see firsthand how corrupt the judicial branch of government really is and expose the lawyers and the judges for what they are, many tyrants. It's time to regain control of our constitutional republic. We must resurrect the visions of our nation's founding fathers and ban all lawyers from our courts and return to a system of justice based upon the rule of law. One day, all of these judges and all the lawyers will appear in the divine court of justice and stand before our King, Jesus Christ, Yeshua, to be judged according to their works. Quote, "For it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, saith the Lord." Romans 12:19. Now, this information is not presented to you to discourage you from using our court system. It's presented to inform you of the corruption within that system. I am the Ghetto Man. Thank you for watching. If you're politically correct, then you're legally wrong. And if you're not part of the solution, then you are the problem. Please subscribe to my BitChute channel, and please share.